start your training.
Well, great. Well, Kim, Marie, feel free to ask any questions. It's a small class, so it can be very interactive. And if you have any kind of questions, feel free to stop or just stay off of mute, however you want to do it, and we can have a conversation. The best thing about the class today is, if I can get it to work, 1 second, is you're going to get a CE credit for it too. So if you'll copy down that phone number, I'll give you a second. Either take a screenshot if you're on your phone or copy down the phone number. If you'll write down that phone number and text the word green, as in Gary Green, which we should have done in green, I guess, but to Gary Green, it'll walk you through some simple instructions on how to register for the to get a CE credit for it too. Hello, Elizabeth. Glad you got in with us. But like I was saying, if you'll copy down this phone number and text green to that phone number, you'll get a CE credit for the class today. So if you copy that down. So we are going to be talking about home inspections and managing home inspections and what we do. So we're going to learn about the elements and characteristics of a home inspection, where most problems are commonly found, develop strategies for both the sellers and the buyers on home inspections. That's already come up before we've even started. Identifying information that the inspector requires the realtors to do and what should be on hand to facilitate a smooth inspection, and learn how to assist clients in addressing the problems found during an inspection. So that's kind of what we're going to go over today. So directing your clients to the best inspectors. So everyone realizes that TREC has requirements for realtors and steering clients towards home inspectors. So most brokers require one of their agents to have at least 3 people to refer to for home inspections. Most of my agents give that out with a wink and say, Chris is my favorite or Bob is my favorite or whatever, how that works. But they generally have a list of 3. The one thing that we find that's so odd is most agents have their favorite inspector, their inspector they know, they trust, they use all the time. But the other 2 on the list, they typically don't even know that well. We see it all the time. So, well, I don't even know the other 2 guys on my list. At least I'll put you in at number 2. It kind of makes us laugh all the time. It's like you're still referring somebody out and you don't even know if they're good, but your broker says you have to throw 3 out there. So anyway, try to find a couple good backups anyway for your favorite and make sure you have those in there. It's that number 2 and number 3 guy's job to do a really good job for you to try to move themselves up to number 1, but at least know who you're referring out. Hello, Tyler. At the end, I'll come back and give you a Zoom link to be able to get this for a CE credit. I'll give you the phone number so you can add it to it so you can get a CE for the class. How the seller should prepare. Should the seller be present? Things that the inspector is going to ask for and frequently asked questions. So a home inspection is an objective visual examination of the physical structure and systems of a home from the roof to the foundation. And the key to that right there, this comes from InterNACHI, which is an organization, a nationwide organization that kind of gives instruction to all home inspectors, regardless if they're in a licensed state or non-licensed state, which obviously Texas is licensed. But if you're not licensed, you go through InterNACHI because it gives you some credibility. The key to that statement is a visual examination. We're not allowed to do any kind of destructive testing on any of their stuff. We can't look inside walls. We can't open sheetrock up to see where a leak came from. So it's a visual examination. Having a home inspection is like giving a physical checkup. If you have problems or symptoms that are discovered, the inspector can recommend repair, replacement, or further evaluation by a specialist. A home inspector is not a commodity item. So we have people constantly calling us. It's like, well, I've got this home inspector who said he would only charge us $250 for this house, and you're charging $400. And one of the simplest ways I put that all the time to clients when I get that is, you know what, I teach classes, I teach home inspectors, And I could go back to the school I teach and find a home inspector that just got out of school yesterday, and I bet I could get him to do it for $150 for you. If you want me to give you his number, I will. And I put it like that all the time because it does put it into perspective. You know, you have someone that's done 3,000 or 4,000 home inspections, and you have somebody that does one. Well, they're not paid the same. So there's a big difference in knowledge, customer service, and professionalism. And we work really hard to give all those. Has he been trained professionally? If so, where? So, you know, any home inspector that's working for you in Texas has passed the state and national exam through TREC. You know, they've had to go through the schooling and the requirements that TREC has. So being in Texas, we are licensed and we have to go through that. So asking a question of how much experience does he have? You know, that's something that's never asked us. People always ask, you know, how much do you charge? But they never say, tell me about your experience. You know, how long have you been in business? You know, how many years, how many inspections have you done? We never hardly have people ask those questions. And those are the questions we'd really like for them to ask them, because when I tell them I've been in construction since I went to college in 1990 for building construction, and I've done over 4,000 home inspections, it's kind of a lockdown, you know, deal. But you know, no one ever asked those questions, and those are the questions that we think people should ask on the phone when they call us. Is property inspections their only business? Do they have other things they do? You know, TREC doesn't allow us to do. Even if I had a construction business on the side, TREC doesn't allow us to do any home improvements to a home that we've inspected for 12 months. So that keeps me being a third party in person and not being able to come out and tell you, yes, you need a new roof, and here, I'd love to give you a quote. You know, that it makes us third party. So they, you know, asking those type of questions. Do they belong to any professional organizations? That's a really important question to ask, especially in a non-licensed state. But being that we're licensed, TREC has quite a few requirements for us, so it's not quite as important here. Are they required to complete any continuing education? Of course we are, just like you guys here in Texas anyway, because we are licensed. These are some good ones too. Errors and emissions coverage. You know, are they required? Well, of course, TREC requires us to have a $1 million E&O policy and a general liability policy. Most home inspectors have tripled that and go to I say most, I get this call all the time, but a lot of new builders, Toll Brothers and a few others, they now require you to have a $3 million general liability policy. So as a home inspector, what can I possibly do to a house that I'm inspecting to cause $3 million worth of damage? They're doing it because they don't really care to have their homes inspected, and they're trying to make it harder and harder. And we're starting to get all these letters from Toll Brothers that we have to sign, and agreements and all these different things. But so making sure they have the insurance, workers' comp, those type of things, those are important questions. On the errors and emission coverage. So my E&O coverage that we purchased actually covers the referring real estate agent also. So that's an important question to ask a new home inspector that you may be trying to look for. So if everything goes wrong on this inspection and everybody's getting sued, brokers, home inspectors, it keeps the it doesn't keep the real estate agent from being sued, but it gives her protection or him protection from being sued under my insurance policy, because I cover you also for being the referring agent. So that's an important question to ask a home inspector. Have they provided certificates of insurance? We do that, and people ask for them all the time, so we give those out. What's the structure of their company? How many people do they have? Are they going to be around 2 to 3 years from now if something comes up? Were they around 2 or 3 years ago? So those are all great questions to ask, and you know, we hardly ever get asked these types of questions. I had a gentleman call me probably last Friday, and I swear he went through this entire list, and I was so impressed that he was asking really good questions about home inspections, not how much do you charge. So those are all great things to ask. So what should a realtor look for? Are the same kind of things that a client should look for. Ease of scheduling. Most home inspection companies today have software that allows them to do online scheduling, a good call center or an office, which you can call in and get scheduled. They're looking for someone they can build a long relationship with. And I know that's one thing I want to do, is build a long relationship. So reports that are clear and understandable. It does me no good to go in and write a report and start talking about jack studs and cripples and all these technical terms I know for framing when your client has no idea what that is. So oftentimes, we talk about it, a brace or maybe a beam or things of that nature, and try to take as many pictures of that as we can, because everybody says pictures are 1,000 words. Well, they definitely are when you're starting to talk about a framing issue or some type of odd plumbing issue with a vent. We draw lots of arrows, take pictures, and try to dumb down construction as much as we can for the layman that doesn't understand those things. Having a professional demeanor, looking for somebody in uniform, looking for somebody who speaks well and is polite with a client. Looking for someone who's clean, doesn't smell, all those types of things, comprehensive, and then having comprehensive insurance. So those are all good things for an agent to be looking for. Will they roll out the red carpet treatment for my clients? That's always a good one too. The most important thing in our business, in my business, that is what we call the kitchen table talk. So at the end of an inspection, when we go through, we basically show the client the entire report on a computer. We go through and we explain every single thing that we found to them. We're happy to walk around, show them the problem, tell them how it's going to be fixed. Every problem that we come up with, it has a solution. Sometimes, unfortunately, those solutions are too big for the client to handle. They may not have understood going into that transaction that they needed a $15,000 roof, and it just may not be something that they can deal with. But we're going to do everything we can to have them informed and not scare them. An inspection shouldn't be a scary thing for a real estate agent to send a client to. A real estate agent shouldn't feel like they have to go to a home inspection to make sure that their clients aren't getting scared. I've had so many agents that came to a home inspection and then said, you know what, I've come to every home inspection I've ever been to, but I'm not coming to them anymore because I don't need to, because you guys say it in a way and that you don't scare clients, and they understand everything that's wrong, and you're not powder coating anything, but the way you explain things is in the right way. So you need to make sure you find somebody like that and you can trust with your clients when you're not around. What inspection format is used? We all have to use the same format. We all make it look a little bit different because we have a little bit different softwares, but Trek has a form that we have to use, and that's, you've probably seen it already, where it says inspected, not inspected, deficient. It's that same form we all have to use. We try to modify it, make it look a little bit more modern than what Trek has, but we still have to go off that same type of format. What should the report contain? Everything that Trek tells us to. It shows what items are checked, items not checked and why they're not checked, and does the report contain items not functioning as designed. So when we're going through that form, we have those check boxes, and then we have to go through and check the check boxes. But to me, the form is pretty archaic compared to what we have today in technology. So we have the format, we have the form, it's kind of in the background, but pictures and our comments and our labeled pictures is where your clients really get the good information from us. It's not really from the form. So detection, description, and direction. We talk about this all the time. Anytime we have a newer inspector that comes on board with us and they call, and it's so funny because I remember when I was brand new and I was doing the same thing, and I would call my trainer, my boss, whoever, and ask them, say, hey, I've got this gutter over here. It's loose hanging off the side of the house. How do I write that up? And we always tell them, you just told me how to write it up. I have a loose gutter on the side of the house that needs to be corrected. That's it. So that's all we're doing. We're detecting problems. we're making a description of the problem, and we're trying to figure out what, and then we're sending you to a resolution, whether it needs to be repaired, replaced, or it's something that needs some sort of further evaluation. And you need to be careful looking at home inspection reports that every single problem has this needs to be looked at for further evaluation by someone else. That in my eyes is a lack of confidence from an inspector, that he's not sure what he's looking at, and he needs someone else to look at it because he doesn't want to make a comment and be held liable for something. We do our very, very best to not put those comments in. There's times when we can't see the whole problem. There's something that maybe is going to take a little bit more testing, or something's going to have to be opened up a little further than TREC allows us to do it, and we'll put a comment in like that. But you need to be very, very leery of an inspector that every comment he has that says this needs to be monitored or this needs further evaluation. It's just a sign of lack of confidence. So so when would the report be available? TREC says that we have 48 hours to get a report out to you guys. Now, we understand that that's not possible a lot of the times. You guys sometimes are getting under, especially in these big sellers markets, you'll have 5-day option periods. As soon as you go into contract, you tell your client, call a home inspector, here's a list, you need to call them right away. Well, 3 or 4 days later, they finally call us. They have to get on our schedule, and a 48-hour option period, a 48-hour period doesn't work. So we always do same-day reporting. So finding out when your inspector is going to be able to get the reports out is important. How they're delivered. I don't know of anybody who mails out an inspection report anymore, but that is still an option through TREC, is we can mail them out. But I think everybody sends them digitally. We know, and when we send out those reports, our standards of practice through TREC say the only person that can get that report is the client. That's the only person we're dealing with. That's the only person we can send it to. Our agreement, when they sign our agreement, it says that we can share that report with their agent and their agent only. So when we send out a report, we send it to the client and to their agent, and that's the only people that we can send it to. But it keeps you from having to call your client and beg them to send you the inspection report so you can start working on the amendments, because we understand the time frame that you're under too. So we send those out to you also. Will the inspector be readily accessible for questions about the property or the report after the inspection? So we encourage every client to be there towards the end of our inspection so we can go through the entire report. There's many reports that we have that are 60 pages long and may have 70 items. Well, when we're finished, clients are always asking us, so is this what I asked for to have fixed? And, we already start to help you set the expectation as to what the client should be looking for. And we tell them, no, you can't really send 70 items to a seller and have them fix it. These are the really, really important things that you should be looking for. These are maybe the big ticket items or safety items, or we know what you guys do because we've done so many of them. So we know what you can ask for and kind of know what you can't. That way, when they come to you and they come to you and say, Tyler, here's what the inspector came up with, and these are the 70 items I want you to fix. They're not going to come to you like that. They're going to say, Tyler, hey, here's the 70 items. This is the 3 or 4 things we're really concerned about. Can you help us, with the amendments and get things going on that? So they've already got an expectation, and we're already helping you get to the next level, because we know what everybody wants. They want to buy the house, you want to get to closing, and you want to get a check. So we understand the next process. So what's the cost of a home inspection? So I do a lot of market research back and forth to make sure our pricing is comparable with everybody else. I feel like we're kind of in the middle of the road. I would say the average cost of a house between 2 and 2,500 square feet is somewhere around the $400 range. And a termite inspection is somewhere close to $190 to $100. So for a normal size home, 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, you're probably looking at $500 with a termite inspection. We get a lot of clients who call us and say, well, my real estate agent told me that this should cost $250. Well, I don't know anyone who does home inspections for $250. And when they're going to be out price shopping, looking for this $250 inspector, even though you gave them a list of home inspectors, they're not going to find probably the person that was on your list for $250. It's going to take them longer to get an inspection scheduled and get an inspection booked, and you're probably not going to get a very good product from that. So we recommend you not giving costs for inspection. Let them work on that themselves, because we see lots of problems from that. Not all inspectors are created equal, and cheaper is not always better. That's for sure. So preparing the buyer for a home inspection. So the buyer is going to have an inspection agreement. So the Texas Real Estate Commission requires us to give them an agreement. It has all their jargon, and we added a couple other things that are going to help you guys down the road, like being able to get the report at the same time the client. They're going to get a copy of the standards of practice, which is kind of what we're required to do through TREC, and it's going to talk about the scope of the inspection, what we're going to do when we're there. So outbuildings, pool spas, in-law quarters, et cetera, to be inspected, what are the costs? So we have tons of ancillary services that we do. We pride ourselves in being a one-stop shop. So we not only take care of pools and spas, we'll go into what all we do, but all of those have separate prices also. And a lot of times those aren't accounted into the initial inspections. And we'll kind of go through that here in a little bit further. No house is perfect, regardless if it's new or old. They just need to expect that there's going to be a lot of things found. Most inspectors are always going to find some kind of concerns in the house, whether it's depending on, it makes no difference the size or the age of it. Didn't mean to repeat myself, but there's nothing that can't be either fixed or replaced, and we talk about that all the time. And in our words is every problem has a solution, and so they just need to understand what that is, and if it's something that they're prepared to do. But just telling them, hey, there's a framing issue in your attic that needs to be corrected, and walking away, that can be a kind of a scary thing, because people don't understand structure, framing. But if we say what this is going to take is any handyman or a framer to come back up and install one 2x4 brace, and you're probably looking at $100 to have that fixed. It makes it sound a whole lot better than just leaving it as you have a huge structural issue in the attic and they walk away scared. So you have to get to the next level with them and bring them back off the scared train. So
Chris, can I just point out what you just said is, to me, probably the single biggest differentiator in what I call good inspectors, bad inspectors, because it's so often that when deals are blown, it's over an inspector who just puts that statement and does not go back and qualify. And then agents who don't have that experience don't know how to overcome it. And it kills a deal over $100 piece of 2x4 put back up.
And Michelle, that's a great point. And, in our reports, we don't always have the opportunity to list the actual corrections in there. And that's why we feel it's so important for those clients to try to be there with us. And even during Corona, it's such an important thing to us that I don't have it sitting here with me, but I actually have a small tripod that I put my phone on, and I set my phone up on the desk with my laptop. And I've been doing FaceTime and Zoom and everything with clients from the house that either didn't want to be there. And we have so many people moving here from California, but it seems like every day I have somebody new from California, which I kind of understand. But every day I'm constantly have my phone set up on this tripod, and I'm going through the entire report with them on the phone because I feel like it's so important. And so we're constantly doing that too. And that's where they go to understand the importance of things. And, I've a couple of years ago, I had a deal that got broken because the agent didn't know what an anti-siphon device was on a hose bib, and wasn't real sure what it was. It scared the client. The client didn't know what it was, and they canceled. They dropped this deal. An anti-siphon device, if you don't know what it is, where you turn on your water hose, that's the hose bib. It's a little device that screws onto the bottom, and it's kind of a newer code type thing, but he screws onto the bottom. And what it does is it keeps any water from a water hose from ever going back into the table water in the house. This is a $4 part that's put on by hand. It takes 30 seconds. And this deal got dumped because of that. And it's like, that's where having a client showing up to a home inspection is really, really important, because that deal would have never been blown had they actually showed up, or had the home inspector done a good job, or tried to reach out, done whatever he could to reach out to them. So one of the things too that you can do is set realistic expectations from the beginning to avoid a buyer freakout syndrome. So one of the CE classes we teach is a class, and it's a structural class, but really I've turned it more into an agent class as to what you should be looking for when you go and you do when you go and you're showing homes, so you can kind of set those expectations. So it's some of the things that, like, when I first walk in a door, I can tell if a house has foundation issues. From I open the door, take 2 steps in, I can tell you if it has foundation problems. And we go through some of that stuff so you can see it, and you know what you're looking at when you're doing home inspections, or when you're walking a house, or if you see a small crack in the brick veneer, is that necessarily foundation issues or not? So so you attending some of these home inspections and learning from your home inspectors too is a really good thing to keep you from having buyer freakout syndrome when they go and we tell them all these issues. And who wants a buyer to go and spend $400 or $500 on a home inspection on a house that you could have been able to tell that it has major foundation issues, or it has major roof issues right from the beginning? The agent can also communicate what the inspector is looking for during the inspections. Kind of helps us out a little bit too. It's like, he's going to be looking at all your plumbing, all your, going through the whole list of what we do. So should the buyer attend an inspection? I think everybody knows the answer to that one. I think it's the most important thing that happens on a home inspection. Does the client need to be present for the whole inspection? No, they don't. They get bored. I have clients ask me all the time, I really want to be there from the time you start. Absolutely, come on. And you can walk around with us the entire time. It's not a very exciting career we have. There's a lot of sitting there typing on our phones or tablets or whatever, and they're usually with us for about 4 minutes, and they go find something else to do because it's not that exciting. Even when we're trying to teach them what we're looking for, what we're doing, they still get bored and they walk off because this is not their deal. But they should just be there for the last 30 minutes. I can't speak for all, but we give a nice measurement sheet, kind of describes all the things that need to be measured in a home, what shouldn't be measured, and we give them a tape measure. They can go walk around, measure rooms, measure refrigerators, measure, they want to replace the oven, they're measuring sizes, doing all that kind of stuff. So we can, they can take care of that for 30 minutes, then we'll go through the report. Who should the buyer bring into the inspection? We don't generally have an issue of too many guests. It has happened. I have had it where their mom, their dad, 5 of their kids, 2 of their kids' friends, and a bunch of people are running all through the house. And I had an inspection not too long ago where these kids were upstairs, and the homeowners had a nice little toy room, and that toy room was destroyed. And I'm trying to put toys back away at the end of this inspection because I was outside when this happened. So, if they do bring their kids to their inspections, and their kids are hellions, that's the best word. You need to keep an eye on that because we can't always be there to babysit kids, especially if we're on a roof or outside. Even the best inspectors, they don't know everything, and a good one will admit it. I have on speed dial my electrician, my AC guy, roofers. I have if I have a question, I'm going to ask an expert that does it every single day. So they don't have it all, but we'll definitely get an answer if we can't figure one out. We see stuff in homes all the time that we've never seen before, and so always asking about it. So but an inspector should be able to get to the point with a client in the right direction and solve any of those mysteries that we come up with. And that's why the report, the actual written report, is so important, because a lot of times a little bit of research has to be done when we get back to the office. But the report is our final, or the written report is our final word. On buyer's advice, explaining to the buyers their options for dealing with the conditions and what the inspectors may discover. That's really good advice. And who's responsible for any property damage caused during the home inspection. I think in 4,000 or 5,000 home inspections, I've only been a part of this twice. Had a toilet overflow in a upstairs bathroom. We cleaned up everything, didn't cause any real damage after that, but I did have a carpet cleaning company come in and clean the carpet upstairs, just to make sure that the seller was happy and that no one had any issues. And it was a very easy $99 for us to spend to make sure there was no issues down the road. But you know, there is some issues that happen during home inspections. You know, we stepped through a ceiling in a new build about 2 months ago, and fortunately it was a new build. We got a hold of the builder, and the builder said, no problem, we do it all the time, we'll take care of it. But had that not been a new build, I'd have definitely had my sheetrock guy, you know, their earliest convenience to take care of it. So how they handle those type of problems is important too. Should the seller have immediate access to the inspection report? Only if the buyer decides to give it to them. We never give the report to the seller. And really, a real estate agent shouldn't give it to the seller without the buyer giving them permission to do so. The buyer owns that report, and that's what Trek says for all of us. So So a typical home inspection on a 2,000 to 2,500 square foot house should take around 2 hours. There's an expectation from most realtors that if you take an hour and a half, that's too soon. And if it takes you 2.5 to 3 hours to do a small house like that, you don't know what you're doing. So that's kind of where we're at, is in that 2 hour range. Like I said, we talk about it the last half hour with clients. As far as making arrangements for inspection fees and payments. So a lot of states, if you're coming from out of state, they can take care of inspection fees at closing. That doesn't happen here. But we make every possible arrangement for payment as easy as a client we can be. So we take check or cash at the inspection. We take credit cards when we send out the initial email for starting the inspection. It gives them payment options there. They can either pay by credit card, ACH, money order. We do everything that we possibly can to make payment as easy on someone as we can. I know inspection companies that only take cash. That's a difficult thing. So find out how they're handling that. So advising the seller. So with this PowerPoint was written before COVID, but the biggest problem that we have today, post-COVID, is sellers being at home. It's uncomfortable. So my goal and our goal as a company is when your client comes to us and we're inspecting the new home that they want, we want them to be as comfortable as they can possibly be for the 2 hours or 30 minutes or however long it is that they're there. We want them to be as comfortable as possible. So sellers being in the house is not a comfortable situation when you feel like you're invading someone else's home. When they're not there, people don't mind going through their underwear drawers and everything else. But you know, when the sellers are there, it just doesn't make for a comfortable situation. So setting expectations, we always follow our standards of practice through Trek. Sellers don't get a copy of the report. So what are the potential ramifications of the inspector's findings? The conditions are disclosed. So that's one of the things for sellers is once we finally go through and do a home inspection, now any of the conditions found have to be put into disclosure. It's a pretty good negotiation tactic for a lot of agents. Some findings are going to be negotiated between the buyer and seller, and some conditions may have to be corrected. So we always respect their property. We don't do any damage, and we try to leave the property exactly the way we found it. Some courtesies can be offered depending on the agreement between the buyer and the inspector. A copy of the report to the seller and their agent, which is, well, we only do the agent. We don't do the seller. It's not our responsibility. And we have an expectations of findings. So how does a home inspection benefit the seller? So up north, pre-listing inspections is a huge part of real estate. My friends, actually my business coach is in Long Island, and almost 40% of his business is pre-listing inspections, but they don't have seller's disclosures there. So they don't have any responsibility to notify a buyer as to what's wrong with the house. So they can go up there, have a home inspector come and inspect their house, tell them all the problems they have, and they don't have to disclose any of them. Well, the pre-listing inspection doesn't work well in Texas because of our disclosure laws, because no one wants to go and have a home inspector come pick their house apart, find 70 things are wrong with it, and then disclose all that, you know. So it hasn't ever taken off here, and until that law changes on the disclosure, it probably won't. You know, people ask us as inspectors all the time, do you want the disclosure? Most of the time I tell them no, because it doesn't have any information in it anyway. It doesn't tell me anything I'm not going to find. And typically, you know, there's so many things that are found that they don't even know about. Disclosures don't seem to really help us. But but anyway, so as a seller, it can help eliminate any surprises later. You know, when an inspector comes, what they're going to find. It can prevent a seller from downplaying significant conditions, and it's good risk management too for those. So pre-listing inspections, it allows the seller time to shop for reasonable cost of repairs. So if they come up and they find that there's a huge roof issue, well, now they have the time to go and search for a good roofer and search for good pricing. It allows sellers to replace broken items with less expensive components. They're not forced to go down and pay for something really expensive. They maybe order something. It can shorten the time between contract and closing. It increases chances of being able to sell as is. And it also increases a prospective buyer's confidence and shorten time on the market. We don't see a whole lot of those. I'm actually doing a pre-inspection Friday. So we don't see a whole lot of them. So how the seller should prepare the home. They need to have all the utilities on and the pilots lit. Number one reason that we have to go back and do re-inspections and that contracts are extended is because of utilities. Trek says that we don't have to light anything that's off, and we don't have to turn on anything that's not on. So if we go up and we see the gas turned off to a furnace in the attic, Trek says we don't need to touch that valve. We don't need to turn it on and try to light the furnace. We use everything the way anyone else would inside of a house by using a thermostat or whatever. So do we do that? Yes, because we don't want to have to do re-inspections, and you guys don't want us to have to do re-inspections either, because it you know, it adds paperwork, it adds time. So we do everything we can, but you know, that's our number one thing is utilities. So when they're inaccessible and they're shut down, we put it in the report, and we work with you guys and try to get back out there and do re-inspections. We typically do re-inspections for free if they're local. You know, if we have something here in Tomball or something in Cypress or Katy, and we're driving by there every single day, not an issue. But for us, Pearland is not our normal area. We go to Pearland. You call me tomorrow, I'll go to Pearland for you, no problem. But that's not our typical area. So if we've got to drive all the way across town to go do a re-inspection, there is like a $100 fee to go do that. That's kind of how that works. The selling agent should advise the inspector. We try to reach out to the selling agent on every single order we do to try to figure out how to gain access, what that is, whether it's a logbox. Of course, we have super keys. If you're working with a home inspector who still just thinks they don't need a super key, you probably should be looking for another one. And you know, we deal with the sellers and the buyers and try to figure out how to handle those situations before they start. So preparing the property. So one, attics, crawl spaces, as a realtor, as a listing agent, the first thing they do when they walk in and they get a deal is, hey, we need to declutter this house. You need to remove all your personal items. You need to do all this. So they start boxing up all that stuff and they stick it in the garage and they block the electric panel, or they put it up in the attic where we can't even get into the attic and perform inspections. So make sure that when they do pack up all that stuff, that they're leaving access to attics, crawl spaces, electric panels, closets, garages. The Trek says that we're not allowed to move any personal items, none. Well, I went to a home inspection just yesterday, and they had a mattress, 2 mattresses laying up against the water heater. I'm sorry, laying up in the corner, blocking the electric panel. They'd already moved out. Just there was a couple mattresses laying there. Well, am I going to write in my report, I'm sorry I couldn't check the electric panel because there was 2 mattresses there? No, I'm not. I moved 2 mattresses out of the way. I took a picture of them before I moved them, and I took a picture of them just for my own records when I moved them back. I got the inspection done. Hopefully they're going to, everything's going to go well. But you got to use common sense with that too. I think if it had been some fine Waterford crystal statue, I probably would have wrote it up so I couldn't check the panel. But anyway, so provide clear access to gates, yards, furnaces, and water heaters. Remove animals from premises. So I'm a dog lover. I train Labradors. I do field trials. I'm a big dog person, but I have clients that won't even get out of the car if they knew there was a Chihuahua in the house. So that's one of those things of feeling comfortable. And we're always opening doors and windows, and we don't want animals to escape. I had a caretaker for a big house we did, a $2 million house in Richmond the other day. He was leaving, and he goes, "Hey, by the way, I left 2 boxers on the back porch." And I said, "Okay." I said, "As long as they're on the back porch and they can't get out, that's fine. I'm not afraid of dogs. I'll go back there." So I'm in the garage, and there's a boxer standing in the garage with me. And I'm trying to call him. He's real skittish. He won't come to me, and he takes off running. So for an hour and 15 minutes, I'm following this dog around the neighborhood, waiting on the seller to get back to come and get this dog because I didn't want to be responsible for their dog. And of course, that prolonged everything else with the inspection over this dog. So make sure all their pets are locked up. The house should look exactly the same when you went and saw the house and you did a showing on the house as it does when it's inspected. It should be clean because the buyers are still going to show up for inspection. So they should be clean. Animals should be put away. The owners of the house should be put away. They can go somewhere else, whatever they need to do. So, should sellers be present? We definitely say no. We've seen deals broken before because sellers go out there and start running their mouth about this and that, start talking about flooding and how high the water got. It almost got the house and all this stuff, and it scared off clients. So sellers should not be there. There's lots of reasons for a seller not to be at a home inspection. It's definitely not in the best interest of either party. So the role of the agent to the seller. Agent can help communicate to the seller how they can best prepare the house. They can communicate to the seller that no home is perfect and they should expect the inspector is going to find some issues with the house. I don't know how many sellers that we've had call us up and say, "I take immaculate care of this house. I have this service and that service, and these guys look at the AC of these people, and I can't believe you wrote up all this stuff." And a little bit of expectation from an agent would have helped. A selling agent may or may not be present during inspection. This depends on the direction of the home inspector and the seller. It really depends on the brokers. It's funny. I don't know why it is. Most of my work is done outside the Beltway, but when we get inside 610, there's 2 things that happen with selling agents. One, they dress in a suit or really, really, really nice clothes, and they come to every home inspection, or they're sitting there at their client's home during every home inspection. I haven't figured out why, but as soon as we get inside the loop, it's like the professionalism goes way, way up, and they're at every home inspection. So then we're having to ask them to leave when we're doing our debrief because it's a private matter between the agent who's referred us as well as the buyer, but a little bit different. So as long as you have a good home inspector, you you probably shouldn't have to go to every single inspection. So things we're going to ask for is contact information, property details. We have to have the signed inspection agreement. It says prior to the inspection. Trek says it's prior to the inspection. Doesn't always happen. Most of the time, a lot of the times we finish the whole report, we send it to the client, and the client goes to open the report. It says, oh, you can't get your inspection report because you haven't signed the agreement. They click on it, docu-sign it, they get it. So it doesn't always happen before the inspection. And then we need access to the property. Utilities on, pets removed. I told you we take all kind of payment. We don't do escrow anymore. So frequently asked questions. We already talked about it just being a visible inspection. And we can't remove any type of personal property, dismantle anything, do any kind of destructive measures or actions which will likely involve risk to persons or property. So like I was saying, we use common sense on that one, but that is what Trek tells us. So of course we don't do any destructive measures. And what kind of destructive measures could we do in an inspection? So I think a moisture meter is probably the most important tool that a home inspector has. And it relieves a lot of doubts in a buyer's mind. And it just happened yesterday. So there were several stains on the ceiling around the home, and we noticed that all those stains were underneath some roof vents that were protruding out the roof. Well, they just had a brand new roof, so we were inspecting a brand new roof. Well, we saw the stains, which can be a concern, but then the next comment is, we also tested those stains with a moisture meter, and there's no moisture present. So most likely the new roof fixed that issue. Well, with a moisture meter, some of the other testing you can do requires destructive testing, where you actually drill 2 small holes you can stick a probe in and detect moisture inside of a wall. Well, we can't do that without anybody's permission. So, and a lot of it was with stucco too. So we do a visual inspection on stucco. And that's also another test, is they drill holes in the stucco. You can take your probes in and measure the moisture inside of a wall, remove the probes, and you have to fix the stucco. So we can do those, but we have to ask for permission first from the homeowner. So if a home inspector misses something per the standards of practice, so if we miss something that Trek says that we're supposed to cover, he should be willing to and able to satisfy the client. Doesn't happen very often, but we're more than happy to make a client happy with whatever they need. So most home inspectors, they kind of prescribe how something should be repaired rather than what the end result should be. End results can be different on different situations. So we just talk about how they need to be repaired, not what it should look like when it's finished. Repairs vary widely in quality, price, oftentimes, and they don't really bear much relation in one another either. So so home inspectors, we can't do repairs. We talked about that. Bond, license, insurance. So any home inspector that you're using this license through Trek is going to have the proper licenses, bonded, insurance. Not much of an issue to worry about there. So what may be easy to fix for one person may be impossible for another. I have people that don't even know how to use a screwdriver. And then I have clients that know as much as I do. So it goes back and forth. What type of questions do you guys have? What have y'all run into? What do you not understand about home inspections? What scares you about a home inspection? Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? No, not really. Have y'all all been in a transaction with the home inspection yet? Are you brand new? You're brand new, Tyler? How about you, Elizabeth? Are you brand new too? Have you had a home inspection yet? You're on mute, but you either raise your hand or.
Yes, I have.
Okay. So I guess my advice for you guys is, one, find a home inspector who can handle all of the issues that you have, and we'll kind of go through some of that now. So find a home inspector that can handle all of the things that may come up for you on a home inspection. So with us, we do home and commercial inspections. We do all 3 phases of new home construction. And what phase construction is when they're building a house, we go through and you have your form out there for your foundation. And before they actually pour concrete into the foundation, it's the only time and the last time that anyone's going to see how any of that was constructed. The beam depths, the rebar, everything that's done, the post-tension cables, all of that. It's the last time we get to see that before concrete's poured. So that is the first phase of a phase inspection. The second is they've already got the whole house framed. They've got the roof on. They've got just the plastic around the outside of the house, and they have the windows in. So you're kind of in the middle of the road on inspections, but it's called a pre-drywall inspection. And it's the last time that we're going to get to see all the rough-in wiring and the rough-in plumbing and a lot of the AC duct work and before drywall gets covered up. And then the last one is the final. Oh, excuse me. The last one's the final inspection, and of course that's when the home's complete. We go through and look at everything and make sure that everything's all working and test all the systems. So termite, or WDI, which is the wood destroying insect report, that has to be completed and performed by someone with a license through the Texas Department of Agriculture. We have that license. We actually have our own bug company too. Should you ever need any pest control, we can handle that too. So with termite inspections is if someone handles WDI. We do mold inspections, septic inspections, water well inspections, pool and spa, sprinkler, and thermal. So if you look through there, we're basically going to cover everything that your client will ever need in one phone call. We have our own super keys. When we go out to a house, there's, like I said, there's really no need for you to show up. We're going to handle your client the same way that you would handle your client, and we're going to give them back to you in a manner that doesn't scare them. They should have. We have a 200% satisfaction guarantee. So Tyler, if you give us a client and we charge him $400 for an inspection, if for any reason he doesn't like our service, we'll not only give him back that $400, but I'll write him another check for $400. And he can go find another home inspector of his own choice to come back out and re-inspect it. The other thing is warranties. So you have plenty of warranties out there, and we're not in the business of selling warranties or trying to sell a warranty. But I want to talk to you. We pay for a 90-day warranty for the client, and how this protects you as well as the client. So with the 90-day warranty, this is just a couple extra things. It not only covers everything that a normal warranty does, air conditioning, plumbing, all of that. It covers some things that most home warranties don't because it's already been inspected. One of them is sewer guard. So sewer guard is any underground pipe, which Trek says that we don't have to inspect. So we have no way to inspect it. You have to be a plumber to run sewer cameras or do any hydrostatic tests. So really any underground pipe is something that no home inspector in Texas is going to be inspecting for, but we have a warranty that protects against it. So should something happen, they move in, we realize that there is an issue with sewer, it's covered under a warranty. Termite protection for the first 90 days, if anything visible comes up with termites, it's covered. Mold safe. I use mold safe as an example. It's any visible mold that comes up in the first 90 days. So I use it as an example. If there's a large entertainment center in this house, when they go to move, they move out, and we realize there was some sort of water issue behind that we couldn't see during the inspection, and there's mold there. It's covered for the first 90 days. So they move in and go, wow, what's up with all this mold? They have a warranty to protect it. Platinum roof protection is also a really cool one. This isn't for 90 days. This is actually for 5 years. So anywhere on the roof, if you have a leak that comes up in the next 5 years, and it's something that we didn't call out on the inspection report, it's actually covered for 5 years. And then recall check, if you guys don't know what that is, it's basically we go through and we get the models and serial numbers off all the appliances, air conditioning, any equipment that we find, we run it through recall check. It gives them back a report and lets them know if there's any kind of recalls on anything. Now warranties, how does a warranty help you as a referring agent? Well, it helps you as a referring agent because your client, I go and I test an AC unit. Today it works perfect. It's blowing cold. Everything's working well. It's going great. And just by sheer luck, your client closes on the house and they go to move in and their air conditioner's broke. The compressor went out in the 2-week period that between now and closing. And the first thing they're going to do is they're going to call you and say, hey, what do we do? Our air conditioner doesn't work. And most agents would probably say, we'll call your inspector. So when they call us, instead of them saying, well, I'm sorry, it worked when we were there, we say, well, you know what, really good for you. We have a warranty that's going to cover that for you. And here's how you make your claim, and here's how you get it started. The nice thing about this warranty is if that client's local, they know a lot of people, they know their own air conditioning guy they've been using for years. The nice thing about residential warranty services, they allow them to use their own vendor. So they can use their own AC guy, their own plumber. And that's a huge issue that that's occurred with me myself using warranty companies, is the quality of service providers that they have. Anyway, that's really all I have for you guys. I'm going to jump back up here. So I forgot who it was. It was Tyler or whoever needed to get they get his free CE class out of the deal while we were doing it. That's really all I had for you. Michelle, do you have anything, or did that cover kind of what you were wanting to cover with these guys?
Yep, absolutely. The only thing that I want to add is you spoke about it's the buyer's inspection report, and that we need to not give it to the seller without permission for the buyer, which I totally agree with. But I think it is worth the time when you are talking to your buyers and you're going to make a request for repairs. So you've got the inspection report, and there are some items that it's important that the buyer wants the seller to do, that you get their permission to share the report with the seller, because that justifies the request the buyers are going to make. And that's going to explain, what Chris or whoever the inspector has wrote up, and will clarify what needs to be done usually. So you don't usually do it without the buyer's permission, but you want to get the buyer's permission so you can submit that when you do make a request for repairs.
Oh, yes. And when I said that, I kind of stopped myself because different brokerages have different policies on that. And I try not to get in, I try not to get too opinionated when it comes to those policies. But yes, I agree with that too. If that's what you guys are allowed to do, that's what I would do too, because it also is it's a pretty good negotiation tool too, because of the disclosures that we do have in Texas. So they know that if your buyer is wanting all these things fixed, and well, I'll just go find another buyer. Well, they still have to disclose all that information now. So it's a good thing to get out and show, hey, here's really 60 things that we found wrong with your house. We're only asking for 2 or 3.
Exactly.
And with your new buyer, you're going to have to disclose all this stuff. So yeah, I agree completely.
Right. And I've never had a buyer say, no, don't give it to them. It's a tool that they've paid for, and it usually helps us get the seller to agree to at least an amount of the repairs.
For sure. And you're never going to see a home inspector give it to them, because timing is important on that. If I gave an inspection report to every seller we did, there'd be sellers that were so mad that they would never go. So timing is important on that. So we don't rest assured that we'll never give it to them. So that's if it's ever given to a seller, it's either going to come from the buyer or the buyer's agent.
Right.
So,
right.
All right. Well, cool deal.
I thought it was very good. Thanks for doing it, Chris. And I guess you'll tell them, or you maybe already finished, how they can get their CE credit for this.
Yeah, it's on there now. So most of the time it's my own Zoom class that we do when we do them. And so I talked to them before I got on the call this morning, and they said, oh, it's really, really easy. If you're on someone else's Zoom and you're added in, you just have them text that. And I think they're going to send you back something that gives you the information where you put in your trek numbers and your license number and get your credit for it. And if for some reason you don't get it, call me and we'll get it worked out. So I haven't done this particular, that looks pretty good. Was it easy?
Yeah, it's easy.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I haven't actually done it, but that looks pretty easy. So Anyway, well, good deal, guys. Thank y'all for letting me share. If you ever have any questions down the road with any kind of inspection stuff, even if it's not us doing it, I'd be happy to help you through it. When you're looking for your next inspector, you need an inspection, go look for that bright yellow boat and grab our marketing materials out of it. And we'd be happy to help you guys. Thank you very much, Michelle. Thanks for having us.
All right, thanks a lot, Chris. Take care.
Great info. Thanks.
All right, see y'all later. Bye.